Perfect.
All right, perfect. Well, we'll hop right into it. So thank you both for joining us today. We're super excited to talk to you. My name is Shelby, as Nikki kind of mentioned, and if you could see from my Zoom screen, of course, but I'm the communication major in this year's Teach Me Into Fish placement.
Yeah, and I'm a marketing major, so I know, Katrina, you were a marketing major at Santa Clara.
Yeah. Perfect. So today we're hoping to pick your brain a little bit about kind of the integration of professional development and social impact, and really just learn more about what life has looked like for you guys after the fellowship. So feel free to stop us at any point if you have any questions, or we want to make this as conversational as possible. So definitely feel free to interject at any point. But yeah, to kick us off, let's start with some introductions. So Katrina, can we start with you? Just give us your name, what you studied at Santa Clara, what placement you had, and what year when you did GSBF, and then what you're doing now.
Sure. So I'm Katrina, and I studied marketing at Santa Clara, and then I had an environmental studies minor. And I was in the 2013 Global Fellowship class, and I was placed in Uganda with Solar Sister, on Gasse Design, and Kiva. And let's see, so right now I have started a fund called Left Behind Workers Fund, and we've built a direct cash assistance program for undocumented workers who have been affected from COVID and don't have access to unemployment insurance or the federal stimulus check. And we have done this in Colorado, but we're now expanding our cash assistance program to help other populations and use cases.
Super cool. Thanks, Katrina.
Yeah.
Katrina, if this has been going on since COVID, were you doing something similar before?
Yeah, it's a good question. Since Santa Clara, I've had a few different jobs, but I was working in Fiji before coming back, and was helping a microfinance firm out there and built an accelerator program. So we were doing microloans, and then before that, I was more in the private side of banking and investment. So I've been involved in sort of the finance world and mixing that with microloans and social enterprises. But this all sort of came together when there was a clear need with COVID, and we wanted to see, could just giving someone cash be the most efficient and impactful way to empower people to use money for their own resources.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Super cool to learn a little bit more about that. But Misa, could we get a little bit about you as well?
Yeah, I was a comm major with a film emphasis at Santa Clara, and minor in international business. So I spent a lot of time in the business school. And then, let's see, I was with Solar Sister, but I'm part of the OG 2012 class. And then, so since Santa Clara, I've had kind of like a little winding road, because I started in nonprofits, working for like a social enterprise that helps get women into the technology sector and keep them in the pipeline. So I did that for years. And then I transitioned over to working in film and kind of with documentary distribution for a little bit. But they got super burnt out and decided to do like a complete change. And almost about a year and a half ago, I switched to working in digital marketing. And so now I work for a company that is part of one of like the largest, it's like owned by one of the largest like advertising agencies in the world, but we focus on digital media and display marketing. So that's what I'm up to now.
Wow. Oh my goodness. It's such a crazy trajectory. I love how many different things you've done. That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, kind of to kick us off on some more questions. I know we heard kind of a tidbit from both of you about where life has taken you a little bit post-grad, but if you can give us a little bit more background on your professional trajectory post Santa Clara, and maybe even like how you got some of these experiences or got to those positions, that would be awesome. Misa, do you want to start this time?
Yeah. I would say, well, and I'd love to know what you guys, because, like marketing and comm, is there like certain areas that you guys are interested in pursuing? Because maybe I can like kind of tailor answers toward that.
Yeah, that would be super helpful. I don't quite know, but I am looking into kind of like digital marketing roles after school.
Cool.
I don't really know either.
Yeah.
Part of
Just
why
curious, like I don't know.
Like,
No.
Yeah, exactly. Like seeing what really exists out there. I like more of the writing side of comm and like the marketing side. So working like PR and digital merchandising as well. So there's definitely huge overlap between Nikki and I's interests.
Very cool. Yeah, well, I feel like, I don't know if this is going to be a helpful answer, but it does feel like the true answer, that the jobs I've gotten was like very serendipitous to fall into it. My first job I got was actually because of the fellowship. I don't know if you guys have been having to like give a lot of speeches, or especially because we were the first year and we're kind of the pilot, we did a lot of speeches in front of like potential investors or just trying to get people to like buy into the program. And so when I was graduating, I didn't have any job prospects, didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do everything and nothing seemed interesting at the same time. And so we were giving one of those, how they have you all up in a line and give your spiel to a bunch of people in a room. I'm sure you've had to do that already. And the people in my fellowship are just like top notch. And they were, like, I'm going to go work for the UN, and I'm gonna get my master's in London, and I'm working for this like amazing, like I'm gonna go like intern with Acumen, and I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything. And so I was the last one to go, and so I just kind of put it out there. I said, like, I don't have a job, so if you're hiring, give me a call. And a guy who was like worked in finance at this nonprofit was in the audience. And so he literally called me up afterwards and was like, I was in the audience. I heard that you needed a job. You should come work for this nonprofit and work in finance. And I was like, I am a film major. I don't do finance, but I would like love to work here. I don't know anything. He was like, you'll learn, just join. And that's literally how it happened, which sounds crazy that that's how. But I think the biggest thing, I don't know if like you want advice or anything, but I think like letting it be known that you're looking and like leveraging your network, like, I mean, it sounds like you're doing it, you're talking to us right now, but for a long time, I was like afraid to let it be known that I was looking or trying to figure it out on my own. But really how you get jobs is people hear about things, recommend it to you, send it to you. That's how I've kind of landed in different places, except for my current role. But I did a lot of networking, a lot of like self-development type of work to try to make sure that I had my story crafted to switch industries. So, yeah.
That's awesome, Misa. I really appreciate just like your boldness and your willingness to put yourself out there. I think that's something that, like my tendency is to be kind of, I don't know, a little bit more, I don't know the right words, but like my tendency wouldn't be to just put it out there like that. But I think that there's so much value to that. And there's nothing shameful in doing that and making it known.
Exactly. And like, that's not how I felt at all, even in, but like, I think it's like, it's true.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and similar to Misa, I also, my first real job after Santa Clara was connected to the center. And so I got an internship with Artisan Connect, and they were doing an in-residency program at Santa Clara. And we're starting this online marketplace of high-end home decor made from artisan groups all over the world. And I was interning, and it was in the really early stages. And it was really cool just to be a part of something that was still in that conceptual phase of figuring out what exactly is this? Is it going to be an app? Is it going to be a website? Who is the customer? Who are we partnering with? And it was all really still this idea that hadn't been brought to life. And so I really realized that I loved being a part of that early stage and figuring out, kind of working through all those big questions of what are we building? How do we build it? thinking through how do we design something that's appealing to our target market? Who do we go through? So a lot of that's where like I have really found my niche and connection to, I think, marketing as a whole is just that exercise that you go through in thinking about all the different angles when you're trying to create something or write something or talk to someone, is thinking about incentives and just I think I found a lot of fun in just that sort of brain exercise. And so I was doing that, and then I went through something that I'm sure you guys might be going through or will go through, is when everyone's just looking for a job and you start like getting confusing yourself of what you're even looking for. And like everything seems like, I just remember ending up in like a real estate office and being like, I could get some skills from this, I think. Like, and you like go from like being really focused to like this huge wide net of like anything you can find a reason that maybe it would work. And it's just because you feel a lot of pressure, I think, at that stage when you're trying to find a job and you're just figuring out, is it any job or is it the perfect job, and like wavering between those two thoughts. And I ended up thought I had a job with Oracle, and really ended up landing on, I need skills. I want to, a established company so that I can learn all of this and then bring it to a social enterprise later. So I was really running with that mindset, and then naively didn't sign a contract, thought I had a job at Oracle. They really had a hiring freeze. Told myself it was the perfect situation because then I could travel for a few months and then come back to this job that I really thought I had. And then I realized when I was traveling that it wasn't going to happen, and that I just couldn't rely on this job, which was devastating and like felt life crushing at the time. But my connection with Artisan Connect ended up like perfect timing. Right when I got back, she called me and they could hire their one of their first employees. So I ended up working with them or her, and that was a really small social enterprise. And that was just a cool experience to see, how things are built from the ground up and sort of have my toes in all the different areas of a work environment, a business. But I still wanted that more structured environment. So I ended up then working for Silicon Valley Bank for 4 years. And that was really a really good, I think, experience for me to have in terms of understanding how businesses worked, getting really cool exposure to all these innovative companies out there and the leadership team of those companies. And then I sort of flip-flopped again to wanting to be more tangibly working with people who are compassionate for issues I care about, and go back into the social enterprise sector, and felt like I had the kind of the skill set that I wanted to get from that established environment to bring it to something more on the ground and maybe build something. So that has taken me to where I'm at now, which is quite crazy to be just building something that has really grown so quickly. But I think all of the experiences that you have in different jobs kind of lead you where you are, and the trajectory is never going to be straightforward. So I think for me, like the most helpful thing, and now I really rely on it, is just like following your like gut, because you're going to talk to a million people who have a million opinions. And I think just taking a step back and like trying to internally listen and recognize like what actually pulls you, who do you want to be surrounded by, what feels right, is sometimes way more powerful than like the logical response or this one piece of advice that we got from someone we really respect. It's like we already know inside and just need to listen to that more. So I don't know where I kind of took that question, but that's all I have to say about that, my trajectory.
No, I really appreciate that. Like, again, just like speaking to your authenticity and like your journey, like this is all useful for us, I promise. Especially like, where you started is something that I'm super interested in. So it's kind of cool to hear like the fact that you started there, but you didn't necessarily stay there kind of a thing. I think I get kind of stuck in the mindset of like where I go is like where I'm gonna stay. And like I want to be a little bit more flexible.
Oh yeah, not the case.
Not the case. Like you can see not the case at all. I think it's easy to think that because it's so uncertain and there's so many unknowns, but really if you're open and passionate and you want to do something, I feel like you can make it happen. It's not like you have to work for a private company, then you can work for a nonprofit. There's obviously, I think, ways that make it easier depending on your path, but really you can usually get to where you want if you like have the energy behind it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You said a lot of things that really resonated with me, Katrina, and I have kind of like a small follow-up question. Misa, if you have anything to add here too, I would love to hear what you have to say as well. But something that you said that kind of stuck with me and something that I definitely relate to is like senior year, just being open and like having your net cast so wide and there's all these different options, which is like a great thing to be open to all that. But like, how do you navigate like sticking to what like, you really actually probably want to do and like would really benefit you the most? Like, how did you navigate that? Any advice on that?
Let me think about that because I definitely ended up, truthfully, I didn't do the best job because I ended up at Oracle, choosing Oracle, and I think I would have been really unhappy there. So life ended up directing me to the right way, but I think, and that's why I say like the listening to your gut, and I think actually taking time to think for yourself, like what are you looking for in the next job? What do you want to prioritize? What are your values? And I know like Santa Clara does a good job and the fellowship does of incorporating things, but actually using that as your guidance and trying to stay away from comparing yourself to your friends or these pressures in like your major that you're in, and especially in the business school that you get with that comes with trying to find a job and being in Silicon Valley and looking a certain particular way. I think spending time writing out what are your major values, what are the 3 things you want to look for in like the job and environment you're setting yourself up with, and like sticking to those and coming back as much as you can. Otherwise you can get pulled in like a million different ways.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's super good advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever read or heard of the book Designing Your Life?
Sounds familiar, but I haven't read it.
I recommend looking into it then because it's these like 2 professors out of Stanford who wrote it. And they definitely apply like a Silicon Valley approach to, life goals because they use like scaling and like lean modeling for what they're doing, which doesn't, I'm recommending it. And I'm telling you that also like didn't necessarily like speak to me, but I did read it. But it is helpful, especially if that's like your kind of thought process to go through things like methodically or like step by step, because what is interesting about it and kind of like echoes what you're saying, Katrina, is that it kind of talks about how when we think about like what we want to do in life, we have these big dreams. Sometimes it's like overwhelming to think about how do I get there right now. But they kind of apply like startup principles. Like you don't like, what is the minimum viable product right now to get to that? And so like you can take steps and be doing things even within your work or outside of it, that's getting you to a bigger dream, that you don't have to necessarily do everything, jump in 2 feet right away without knowing or without having the skills, because sometimes that's like a scary thought and maybe not even possible depending on what situation you're in. So I'd recommend, when I was looking for an industry change, I kind of read through that book and was thinking about, and they'll ask you questions like, if money or your skill set or anything wasn't holding you back, what would the dream be? Or if you were right now, what would the dream look like? And just kind of like thinking through different scenarios. Yeah, I found it interesting because for a long time, I thought my dream was to work for a film festival that I've volunteered with for years. And so my entire life path was like headed that direction. And then like I got a job offer at the film festival and I turned it down because I realized I was like, I don't think this is that was my dream when I was 18. I don't think it's my dream when I'm 28, you know? So I don't know, I'd recommend looking into it.
Super
I want to read that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I need that.
Yeah, I guess they teach it as a class at Stanford.
Wow.
Cool.
But the book itself is like kind of fun.
Cool. I'll have to look into that.
Thank you. When winter break's coming up, I need something to do, right? Might as well.
Yeah, just write about your life aspirations.
Exactly. Well, perfect. Speaking about life aspirations, I'm curious where are you guys going? Like, are you happy here? You mentioned something about like your dream job. What does that look like for you? What are your next steps? Another one. You can take it.
What's your life goal? What's your dream?
Oh, it's kind of a big question.
What's your dream?
Yeah, come on, Shelby and Nikki, tell us your dream.
That's an unfair question. Oh, goodness. I don't know. Do you see yourself staying in your current position, or is this kind of a stepping stone for you?
For me, it's definitely a stepping stone. I'm new to the digital media landscape. I really like it. I love my job. I like the space itself is super fascinating, and the technology is always changing. But now that I'm in it and I know about it, I'm also seeing that like I'm working for this huge corporation, and now I'm seeing ways that I can apply what I'm doing to companies that I like actually care about and care about their mission. So that's what I see. But then, you know, I mean, this is like full transparency, you know, like I'm like in my house all the time. I'm also like looking at potentially just moving to Italy next year and just starting fresh and trying something.
Cool.
Like buying a house in Italy and just kind of starting a life there instead. So that's kind of, I'm like just those things right now.
You could have your whole eat, pray, love moment. I really like that.
No, I was just talking with my fiance and I was like, what if we move? Because they're selling $1 houses in Italy right now. So
Are they really?
yeah, they're like in small rural towns, but we were talking about it. We're like, should we buy a house in Italy? Should we?
Oh my God.
So that's kind of, so I don't know. Don't take my advice as well. Because I'm like, what if we just like moved? That's an option too.
That's my new dream.
Dude, I love that.
That's so cool. I'm gonna look in Italy now for sure.
€1. You could have
We could have multiple houses. Yeah, we could have a village.
Exactly. Start a commune in rural Italy.
I'm trying to get all my friends. I'm like, let's all move.
Let's see. Dream. Yeah, so for me, I feel like I've reached this new place with this fund. So it started really in April. So not that long ago. And then it's developed into now this like system and model that can be replicated. So not to confuse too many things, and this isn't that important, but it's spinning out into this company called AidKit. And I would be leading that, which feels very bizarre and weird. And it's still like in the formation phases, but we already have a few clients. Utah wants us to replicate what we did in Colorado and do a cash assistance program there. And then the other one is like for informal care providers who have been affected from COVID, and do cash assistance for them. So without even trying to grow it and like doing any marketing, and it's through just word of mouth and being successful in Colorado that we're getting approached. So I think there's a lot of like opportunity, and I've been so busy and so consumed with Left Behind Workers Fund that I haven't even been able to like think about and plan and come up with the vision and mission or the mission's there, but come up with, what do I want this look like? What could it look like? What's our market? All of those things. So I mean, I feel really lucky in the sense that this feels like it combines a lot of my interests into this opportunity that's ahead. For me, like the biggest thing is figuring out the work-life balance. And I think that has become more and more important, and especially now, and just realizing that I don't want my whole life to be work. And I think I have romanticized the idea of being a social entrepreneur in college and after, and like thought it was, really thought it was so cool that you could be so dedicated and passionate about something and it's not even really considered work and all these things. But the reality is, like, it's taking time away from other people, other hobbies. And I'm just trying to get clear on, like, how do I set up this next phase and launch of Aid Kit and design it in a way where I can have a balance and I can be fulfilled in other parts of my life. And a part of me is like nervous, like, is that possible to be in charge of a company that is growing and do that? And I feel like it is possible, but I have to be really intentional about it and figure out, like, what do I want the balance to look like? But so if I can get the balance right, then it would be the dream, but that's the key. And so, yeah, I'm like internally going through a lot of like just wanting to escape for weeks and like want time to like think through all these big things, which just never, you don't get that time. But I am going to Costa Rica, I think, for a month, and I'm going to try out the work remotely and
be
see,
a true
like,
digital nomad.
Yeah, and see like if that is a possibility, because I would love to be able to do that for like 2 months out of a year. But yeah, I don't think this is like, again, it's still just like a launch into who knows what is next, but I'm pretty focused on getting this Aid Kit off the ground for the next few years at least.
Oh my goodness, you guys are so cool. Thanks for talking to us. I love this.
I'm not that cool.
I'm like shaking my head. I'm like, if you knew. Well, I have a question for you guys. I know we're kind of like at the time allotted, but I know we're kind of like talking about our vocational and kind of big picture of things, but do you have any questions about like the industries or kind of that thing? If you don't, that's fine, but I also want to just like throw it out there like as well.
That's super nice. Shelby, do you have anything specific you want to ask?
Oh goodness. I think the biggest thing that is daunting for me is really just getting started, like getting my foot in the door kind of a thing. Because I'm really interested in like the storytelling side of like a social enterprise in either retail or food systems. Those are kind of the two big things that pull me. And I don't know where to start with that. Like, that's so ambiguous in and of itself. And it's just like, yeah, I don't know. So if you guys have any advice about that, but you kind of started with that though, Misa, like really just pointing out the fact that you're even like looking for a job, right? So I guess I should start there, but I don't know. I don't think I have anything like super specific about the industries themselves. So appreciate that though. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it for me right now, but I do know like there's a lot of overlap in the things that you guys have done and like some things that I'm interested in off the top of my head, like digital marketing Misa. So I would love to follow up with you guys when we do have more questions. But yeah, kind of besides that, we just want to thank you for your time and energy. And it's super cool to just have this conversation with you and kind of just open up this dialogue, especially, having been in our shoes 7-8 years ago. And then also like, being in different industries and always kind of wanting to incorporate impact in some way or another. That's something that definitely Shelby and I are interested in. It seems like that's kind of most of the GSBFs. So it's cool to have that similar mindset. So yeah, that's kind of it. Thank you guys again so much. And we'll hopefully stay in touch with you. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Yeah, definitely. If you guys have any questions, just, reach out.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when you're doing the job search or when you're starting to look at more opportunities, if you think that any of my connections would be helpful, I'm connected to tons of nonprofits in Colorado, specifically in the immigrant community, but like a range of like food distribution nonprofits too. I mean, a lot of different types. So if you become clear and like send me an email of just like a connection that would be helpful or the type of organization you would want to talk to, feel free to do that. And I'd be happy to think if I have anyone useful for you guys.
Wow.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah, right.
Gotta utilize the network that, we all talk about being so great. This is it.
Right.
Now we're a part of it. This is it right here.
Welcome to the club. You're almost on the alumni side. You'll be doing it in a year or two.
Gosh, that's wild. Yeah, Nikki, this is going to be us soon. We wrap up, what, next week or something?
Yeah, crazy. I think this is one of the best parts of the fellowship is like talking with alum and getting to hear from you guys. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Cool.
Great. Thank you guys.
Thank you both.
Bye, guys.
Talk to you soon.